Hello, my name is Kez, and this is my 10-day solo hike from west to east on the Larapinta Trail. A little bit of background on the trail. The idea for the trail began in 1989, along with a proposal to develop a national park in the West MacDonald Ranges, known as Tjoritja by the Indigenous owners and custodians of the area, the Arrernte people. The first half of the trail from Alice Springs was opened in 1990, and Tjoritja, West MacDonald National Park, was established in 1992. The trail was originally proposed to go all the way out to Mount Giles as the highest mountain in the Northern Territory, but due to its remoteness, for safety reasons, it was changed to Mount Sonder, Ruchipma, the fourth highest. The final 223-kilometre trail that we know today from Old Telegraph Station to Mount Sonder was completed in 2002.
Dear Hiker Diaries, it is day one of the Larapinta Trail. I've just been dropped off by the company that gave me a transfer out here to Red Bank Gorge. So I'm just heading down to set up my campsite, and then I'm going to have a bit of a lazy time, go check out Red Bank Gorge, which I think is about a half an hour walk away, maybe go for a swim. And then I'm going to try and summit Mount Sonder tonight, which is what most people finish with, but I'm going to try and do it for sunset tonight, so we'll see how that goes. I went out to Red Bank Gorge, had a swim, which was colder than a brass monkey's balls, I would like to say. And now I've come back, put some stuff in my tent, and about to head to Mount Sonder. It is 3 p.m. and I'm hoping to get there for sunset, so we'll see. They say it's pretty slow going up. It's only 8 k's, but they say it can take a good 3, maybe 3.5 hours. So we'll see what their time predictions are like. You can see the trail going up there.
Boom! Made it to the top of Mount Sonder. It took just under 3 hours, and actually it wasn't too bad. The first bit was a little steep, but after that it levelled out a little bit and was kind of a nice meander up for most of the trail. At the top, I enjoyed dinner while watching the sunset. I highly recommend as an alternative to the traditional sunrise hike of Mount Sonder.
Well, good morning, it is day 2. Went up Mount Sonder last night for sunset, so that was pretty cool actually. And walked down half in light, half in dark, but it wasn't too bad. And then this morning, it's probably about 7:30, just before 7:30, leaving Red Bank Gorge and on my way to Finke River, which is about 25-ish k's. Who knows, the sign back there said 25.9. My map says 25-ish. We'll see what it is by the end of the day. But it looks pretty cruisy for the first bit of the day. And then in the middle, I've got an up and down climb. Again, I don't think it looks too bad. Maybe about 300 meters up and down. So that'll be annoying, but I think it'll be fine. And then hopefully sometime this afternoonish, late this afternoon, get into Finke River. I've been walking for about half an hour and I just realised that I forgot to fill up on water back out Red Bank Gorge. It's not too bad because it's now 8 k's until I think Rocky Bar Gap, which has a tank thankfully, which means that it's still cool, the sun's not up, so I'm just gonna power through and do those 8 k's hopefully in the next 2-ish hours. and get to water, and hopefully it won't be too bad. Hopefully the sun will stay behind the mountains for a little bit, which means I don't need to drink. And then when I get to Rocky Bar Gap, we'll fill up on some water. Like the goose that I am. Should have realised that. I hiked enough. But no. You live, you learn. Apparently you don't learn. Onwards and upwards.
I made it to Rocky Bar Gap without a hitch, despite my lack of water. Although, I don't know if you can see. There we go, the power of Zoom. Like a scene from The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage or My Girl with Macaulay Culkin, the tank was covered in bees. But unlike Nicholas and Macaulay, I was not afraid. No amount of bees were going to stop me from getting water.
There is Mount Sonder in the distance. I was up there last night.
The highlight of the day were the great views of Mount Sonder, which is said to look like a pregnant woman, with her head on the right, moving to her breasts and stomach as you move to the left. The rest of the day was pretty relaxed. I stopped for lunch at the top of the climb and enjoyed Devonport Creek and Fink River on my way back down before making it into camp around 4 p.m.
Morning.
Let's just pause a moment and address the elephant in the room. Give me some oversized glasses and suspenders, and with that slicked back hat hair that I'm sporting, I could play the role of an 80s nerd. Note to self, if you're going to video yourself while hiking, always wear a hat. Now on with the regular programming, brought to you by Slicked Back Hat Hair.
It is day 3, just leaving Fink River campsite. Attempted to walk the wrong way out of the campsite. Didn't realise you had to go back down to the river and then start walking again. Trap for young players. The plan is to head into Ormiston Gorge this morning. Hopefully we'll get in there about 10:30, we'll see. And I'll stick around for a couple of hours, see if I can get some charged. I've heard that there is showers there, hot showers, for free. Craziness. So we'll see. Why, hello again. It is day 3. I got into Ormiston Gorge this morning a lot earlier than I thought. So about 9:30. And boards all said it was a 4-hour walk. So I was kind of preparing for that, and then it ended up being like 2.5 hours, and even then I was dawdling. Mostly because I was doing stuff with the camera. But I spent a lovely morning / early afternoon at Ormiston Gorge. Went for a swim, which was lovely. And now heading out. I've got 12 more Ks to do. I'm going to end up at, it's called Mount Giles campsite. However, I've discovered that Mount Giles is actually a separate walk to get to the top of that from Ormiston Gorge. But if you follow the Larapinta Trail, you look out to Mount Giles. So that's the plan. It might be a bit slow going because I'm heading out in the heat of the day. But figured I'd get started now, and if I have to have a bit of a kipper a bit later, and then I'll press on when it gets a bit cooler again. So we'll see how we go. What I am assuming, the trail goes along there. I'm guessing at some point, see this range of mountains along there. I'm going to need to climb up there, and then I assume probably camp somewhere up around over there.
Thanks to my trusty umbrella, I survived the heat of the afternoon, and after a short break, I did the steepest part of the climb in the late afternoon sun, and was rewarded with amazing views, dinner at sunset, and one of the best night skies and camping spots I've ever had. This is my view from camp this morning.
Good morning, it is day 4. Can't really tell, but sunrise has just happened. We've still got some glows of pinks and all the rest happening. So cowboy camp last night, which was quite lovely, and about to head off for my biggest day, supposedly 26 k's. So we'll see how that goes.
That was lies. It was a 29 kilometre day, from Mount Giles Lookout to Serpentine Gorge. The day started with a descent down from Mount Giles Lookout into a gully. The track then opened up before going back into another gully. While the parts of the trail that were in the gullies were rocky and slower going, I actually really enjoyed them. There's something fun about trying to find the best path through a rocky scramble. I made it into Serpentine Chalet around 11 and filled up with water after having dry camped the night before. I didn't stay at Serpentine Chalet for long as I wanted to do the climb up to Counts Point before the heat of the afternoon.
So this is cool. You can see, well, I'll go around there and the trail skirts along and then goes up. So that'll be fun to do.
I was glad to get to the top where I stopped and enjoyed a late lunch. The next part of the trail was fun as it worked its way for a few kilometres along the ridgeline.
You can look ahead. The trail has completely got green ground cover over it. Wonderful, you think, until you realise it's this prickly little sucker right here, all the way overhanging the trail for kilometres and kilometres. Just wanting to scratch up your legs. Put on pants, you say, sure, except it's so hot. So, you know, that's a conundrum. Scratchy, good looking legs or hot legs. You decide.
Okay, maybe all of it wasn't fun, but the views out to either side were spectacular before descending down to Serpentine Gorge to camp for the night.
Good morning. It is the start of day 5. Oh, it's early in the morning. I woke up at like 5:30 and couldn't get back to sleep. So I just packed up. So I should probably check back in with you when there's more daylight. But it's 6:30 at the moment and the sun is rising. So it's great.
It was a gorgeous morning as I left Serpentine Gorge. I planned to do about 26 kilometres to Rocky Gully campsite. However, I ended up doing 30 kilometres and camping in a dry creek bed that other campers had suggested as a possible campsite.
So here people have a choice of going one or two directions. There is a south track and a north track. The north track takes you up high on the ridge line and the south track stays lower. I would have liked to have gone up and done the north track. However, I didn't do my research well enough and didn't know about the north track. So I have a food drop at Ellery Creek. So I need to continue on the south one, which is a bit lower, which will mean hopefully I'm a bit faster and maybe I can do more Ks today, but I'm off on the south track and maybe we'll come back one day to do the north. Probably can't see it in the glary morning sun, but we are at Trig Point. There we go. And I think if I'd done the high route, I would have had to climb up there, which would have been cool. But that's alright, this also very cool. I just got into Ellery Creek about an hour ago and got my food drop. May have eaten about half a packet of snakes right there and then. So I'm now loaded up with 5 days worth of food and water to get me through to the next campsite, which is in about 15 k's. So I'm going to see if I can make it there and what time I make it there, and then decide if I press on any further. But while I was at Ellery Creek, had a lovely dip. It was very cold, like all of them, but it was lovely. Soaked my shirt, which now feels dry already, and I've only been walking for like 10 minutes out of Ellery Creek, so there you go. Climbed up there, it's just a saddle between two ranges, and now let's flip back around, heading down the other side. So this is where the high route joins back up with the regular route, and it goes off in that direction to climb up there somewhere. Don't know if you can see, the track is along there, but then all the way over there is the saddle that I came through earlier today. So I just made it into Rocky Gully campsite, had a bit of a break, filled up with water, and now I'm going to attempt to do another 5-ish k's, which I could be regretting because, check that out, that's my climb straight up. So it's that for about 2 k's, and then it should flatten out. So we'll see how we go. It's about 4 o'clock. I'm hoping just to get a few more k's done today and then stop. But yeah, full of water as well. About 3 litres of water plus 5 days of food. So my pack is heavy. Hence, don't think I'm going to be loving this climb.
Day 6. I left my campsite between Rocky Gully and Ghost Gum Flat just after 6 in the morning as the sun was rising. I was in for another standard 26-kilometre day to Birthday Waterhole. However, it was meant to get up to around 27 degrees. So my hope was to get a good chunk of the trail done in the cool of the morning.
I've just been listening to a podcast called 99% Invisible, which is just all about design, really. And this one was just on trail stories, how trails are made, which was pretty cool to be listening to it while walking a trail. But one of the things that they said was that sometimes the trail makers will purposely put hazards in the way, like logs over trails or something, particularly if the trail is known to be difficult, in order to maintain it as a difficult trail. I thought that was really fascinating because it just made me think of how I've been bemoaning the fact that at times the Larapinta will put you up over peaks when it's flat ground either side, and that's just what's been happening. So that peak back there, I just came over. There is flat ground down there, and the trail's about to take me up over this peak here. They're not very big, but there's also a bunch of flat ground out over there. So it just makes me go, when they were designing this trail, what were they thinking? Were they like, well, it's definitely tough in particular areas, so we want to make sure that easier areas maintain that level of toughness, whether that was one of their thoughts, or whether they were just like, who wants to walk down where it's flat? Instead, let's put them up on some little peaks and give them a little bit of a view. I don't know, it'd be interesting to find out what people were thinking when they went to design these trails.
I got into Hugh Gorge Shelter, where I found the first working charging station. So I took advantage of that while repacking my gear so that most of it was inside the trash bag in my pack for an upcoming waterhole that most people said was hard to get past without swimming. I then took off into Hugh Gorge, which I loved. Gorge walking is slower through the sand with the rocks and route finding, but I kind of love the challenge.
Over, under. We're going to go under. Ugh. See if I can get my pack under. I can. Just. And then I think over here.
After 3 kilometres, I came to the waterhole. So I sealed my pack in a second trash bag and chose to swim across in my clothes, as I knew it would keep me cool in the heat for the upcoming climb to Rocky Saddle. As I finished the swim, a group came from the other direction, and 2 of them managed to do it via a rock scramble. However, there was one section that had they slipped, they and their gear would have been soaked through. After lunch at Fringe Lily, I started the biggest climb of the day in the early afternoon heat. The climb was steep and slow, but again, I loved it. The challenge of finding the track on a few of the rocky up sections was fun.
Who's excited about climbing up there?
What I did not love as much was the climb back down through Spencer Gorge. By that part of the day, I was tired, and route finding / rock hopping was mentally exhausting. So I was glad to make it into Birthday Waterhole.
Just arrived at Birthday Waterhole, or 4-5 section campsite, and at the moment I have it all to myself, which is lovely. So I've just put things on to charge, because this charger is actually working, which is amazing. And if it continues to stay quiet, I might set up here in the shelter. My view from bed tonight.
Day 7 after Stanley Chasm, and some food and possibly some other great stuff. It's not as dark as it looks, it's just the camera wouldn't pick it up unless I put my thing on full bore. But yeah, it should be light enough to turn my headlight off in about 15 minutes. It's 6:15. The plan for today was 18 kilometres from Birthday Waterhole, up a giant climb and down into Stanley Chasm. However, I made it into Stanley Chasm earlier than expected, so after hanging out for a few hours, having a shower and doing some laundry, I pushed on another 5k's to Miller's Flat for the night.
Just made it to the top of the first saddle, so came down from in the gully down there, and then as we go around, it might be hard to see because we're looking into the sun, but we'll dip down a tiny bit. But mostly I think what will happen is we sidle along the side there, and then that little gap over in there, the trail is zigzagging, switchbacking up there. So just made it to the top of the next saddle, but as you can see, the arrow is pointing that way, and if we turn that way, let me show you where we I think have to go, all the way up there. Way steeper than what it actually looks on this video. Made it to the top of Brinkley Bluff. You can't see just all down there where I climbed up, but it was cray-cray.
Okay, so Trail Me was a little bit dramatic. The trail wasn't actually that cray-cray. It was just long and steep. Just in case you can't see the trail, let me show you. Zoop!
About to go get myself a burger.
I made it into Stanley Chasm, where I enjoyed a few hours. I then continued on with the next climb, which was a fun part of the trail.
So that bit was fine, but when I got across the ledge to there, it just looked a bit thin, so I took my pack off, jumped down to the next bit, threw my poles down, and then just scooted down the next step, grabbed my pack, and then it was easy to get down. from there. Zoop, zoop, zoop. Down to here. So not too bad really, but probably easier going up. Made it to camp for tonight. And in the morning, I think I'm going to come back and take the high route. Found myself a lovely little campsite for the night. Set my tent up here. Got some lovely bushes around it. And a great view of the mountains. Well, good morning. It is day 7. I am live. It's day 8. Bit of a later start this morning. About to go do the high route. So, if I turn around, yeah, you can see the sign in the background. So I'm about to head up. Bit of a later start just because I got to climb first thing this morning. I didn't know how technical the climb was, whether it was going to be a rock scramble or whether just steps and stuff up. So I thought it was wisest to wait until there was a bit of daylight to start doing that. And I've only got 21 k's to do today, so that should be pretty cruisy. Alright, I made it halfway up from down in that gully there. And then I'm going to continue to go up there. Let me just show you that. And then let me show you the view the other side of the sail. Looks like I'm in for some fun today. I don't know if you can read that, but it says this water has been helicoptered in for a running race along this section of the Larapinta on the 25th of August. And guess what today is? The 25th of August. So I'm guessing at some point I'm going to have a bunch of very fit people running past me. Made it back to the junction. And now I can continue on and came from up there.
During the afternoon, I enjoyed a break in a dry creek bed before making it into Mulga Camp for dinner and a lovely sunset.
Good morning. It is day 9, my last full day on the Larapinta Trail. Tomorrow I will walk into Alice Springs. So I stayed the night at Mulga Flat, I think it's called, Mulga something. Yeah, when I got into my tent just after sunset last night, could hear a dingo crying off in, well actually it wasn't really the distance, it was reasonably close. And then about 5 minutes later, directly outside my tent, could hear it. It had come up to investigate. So I told it to get lost in no uncertain terms in a very deep, menacing voice. I didn't actually see it. It was on the other side of my tent, which I can't see out. And shook my tent like a crazy person and didn't hear it after that and had no problems all night. But that was a little bit of fun for Mulga Flats Camp. Today I've got about 26 or 28, depending on which count you go off of, to Wallaby Gap. And it doesn't look too bad. There's one reasonable climb in the middle of the day coming out of Simpsons Gap. But apart from that, just pretty undulating. So check back in a bit later. I made it to Simpsons Gap shelter. I'm going to have a little kipper, some lunch, have a rest up here, wait out the heat of the day. Each of the shelters is decorated with artwork by local Indigenous artists. And when you open up the shelters, open up the cupboards in the shelters, they give a little explanation of the artwork, who it's by and what it means about the area, which is pretty cool. So the week before I started the Larapinta, there were a couple of major fires around Alice. One was on the Larapinta, which I'm guessing was this section here. They reopened it. So all afternoon smoke has been starting up and dying down. First there was some over there, which is mostly dissipating, and there was some just over there, which is mostly gone. This, however, is a lot darker than all the rest, and vaguely more in a direction I'm heading, so not quite as impressed by that. Well, good morning. It is day 10, my last day. I'm going to get into Alice today from Wallaby Gap. It's meant to be 13.9 k's and then another 5-ish k's into central Alice. So hopefully we'll get in there sometime just after lunch. I'm looking forward to some fresh food. That's going to be very exciting. The fires from yesterday, I checked them out when I got into camp because there's reception because we're close enough to Alice. And it just looked like a whole heap of like bush and grass fires were springing up around Alice, but they were managing to get on top of them and contain them, which is good. I'm going to jump up here because you can see, I'm going to flip this around, just a lot of low-lying smoke this morning, which I'm assuming is left over from that over Alice. And all of this burnt area is from, it was a prescribed burn apparently the other week, just before I started the trail. And then the wind picked up and it got out of control. So yeah, I think it burnt more than what they were assuming it would burn. But yeah, I will check back in as I get into Alice. The end point of the Larapinta Trail is Telegraph Station, which is about 5 k's out of central Alice Springs, and funnily enough, following some telegraph poles.
Boom. Made it into Alice Springs. I can highly recommend walking the Larapinta Trail west to east. A, there is less uphill and more downhill doing it in that direction. And B, there's a cafe at the end. And then only a short walk to town luxuries. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I also wish to acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional owners and custodians, the Arrernte people. I thank them for caring for the land on which this video was hiked and filmed, and for the opportunity to explore the ancient landscape of Tjoritja. I hope this video has inspired you, and thanks for watching.